The term creator, specifically in the context of content creator, emerged in the early 2000s with the rise of Web 2.0, the version of the web that was centered on user contribution and interactivity, the one that spawned all the social media platforms. The development of platforms like YouTube, which launched in 2005, significantly contributed to the popularization of the term. The slogan of YouTube was broadcast yourself, and it was a call for self-expression, but also a call for its transformation into creation. Everyone wants to be a creator. According to a new study by YouTube and the Fandom Institute, 65% of teenagers and young adults aged 14 to 24 identify as a creator. But the creator's future is a little uncertain. Because of the advent of generative AI, the already limited attention landscape is now extremely competitive. What good is the content creator if one can create custom, unique content at will and at scale? Will the content creator survive generative AI and the fourth industrial revolution?
I believe we can draw parallels between the impact of the first industrial revolution on folk art and the upcoming changes to the content landscape with the emergence of generative AI. For centuries, the artist has remained unchallenged as the central creative force in Western culture. The masterful subtlety of light brushstrokes and the troublingly realistic sfumato of the Renaissance painter in the service of God or a noblewoman elevated their work and, by extension, its maker to celebrity. The capital A artist occupied a privileged ivory pedestal adorned with inlaid mansions of genius. We still revere artists, flock to their museum retrospectives, and read their biographies. But the paradigm is rapidly changing. Museum attendance is dwindling. Movie sales have not reverted to pre-COVID levels. Even television, once the hearse of the American entertainment system, is seeing its viewership diminish, all in favor of internet-based entertainment. Creators currently hold captive most of the attention in the media landscape, especially with younger generations.
The content creator is crowd-facing, constantly addressing the audience through the screen,
staring at its feedback integral to the very interface through which the content is distributed. For instance,
when we encounter a video on YouTube, we encounter the content, the comments, and the likes, all in the same interface. They exist as a singular cybernetic system reinforcing each other.
Many debate the artistic value of content and question whether creators are comparable to artists. However, it has become abundantly clear the content creator is an artist, but specifically a folk artist. An artist creating art reflecting a particular culture, society, or community.
In this case, the content creator reflects the idiosyncratic particularities of the digital niche they inhabit. Content made about Taylor Swift speaks directly to her fandom and relies on specific references which are opaque to individuals not initiated to her lore. Creator Ali Sheehan, whose channel currently has more than 190,000 subscribers, has devoted her channel to the exegesis of Taylor Swift's lyrics, video essays about her music, and even tutorials on how to craft Swiftie friendship bracelets. 2 centuries ago, this array of creation would have been considered folk art, both tangible in the case of the bracelets and intangible in the case of the stories and the analysis. For many creators, the craft of content is a devotional act to the community they participate in. They spend their own precious time making content, usually for no or very little compensation. Creators, to some extent, exist outside of the understood financial incentives of the digital media landscape, whilst being subject to its technological forces. The folk aspect of content creation
comes from the authentic personal feel, which is like traditional folk objects.
As American folklorist and historian Simon J. Bronner writes in his essay Folk Objects, the notion of folk objects tends to emphasize the handmade over the machine manufactured.
Here in the realm of content, handmade is substituted for fan-made, non-corporate, content made by an individual authentically for a community, not by some company for profit.
In the same way that folk artists were appended by the first industrial revolution, so too are their descendants imperiled by generative intelligence. The industrial revolution led to a shift from handmade objects to mass production, whilst also democratizing access to materials and tools. The invention of synthetic dyes, manufactured pigments, and the design of new tools allowed folk artists to modernize their practices. We can expect a similar impact on content creators, a shift towards algorithmic production of content, and a democratization of the access to tools for digital creation. In its first wave, the popularity of the creator was bolstered by two main technological innovations.
One, the multiplication of open access distribution channels, Discord, newsletters, social media platforms, and they all allowed the user to distribute their work in theory to millions of users. There was also the improvement and the democratization of the creative tools,
which led to an increase in the number of creators. This was important as early video software was expensive and very, very specialized. However, this reduction in the barrier to creation has created unfortunate perverse incentives for individuals trying to game the attention economy. Matt Klein's audience capture details dynamics at play on platforms where creators are made so clearly aware of the performance of their work through metrics. This focus on metrics can push creators away from authentic expression, a crucial attribute of folk art, and instead towards a more content optimized for algorithmic success at the expense of originality and sincerity. Klein uses the term audience capture, like the name of the book, to denote the slow and progressive drift towards popular content that appeases one's audience. The impact of generative AI here can be severe. In a struggle with algorithmic machines to capture our audience attention, creators are pushed to optimize the content to the detriment of genuine authenticity. The possibility to programmatically create content allows for A/B testing, a common user research method where two versions of the same content are shown to different segments of an audience to assess which performs better. Of creative content at scale, we have yet to see what this could lead to, but it's safe to say that would be an acceleration of audience capture, because this new technological development does not occur in a vacuum, because it does not occur in a perfect creative economy. The path of technology is dictated by the existing dynamics. In this case, generative AI is being deployed in an already tilted, winner-takes-all creative market that favors dopamine engendering content. The growing preference for AI-produced content is reminiscent of how handmade objects were slowly replaced by mass-produced ones. Facebook is already full of AI content that gets plenty of likes and plenty of comments.
The potential ubiquity of generative AI risks significant economic displacement in an already precarious creative class. Former OpenAI CTO Ram Maradi, speaking at Dartmouth in June 2024, said that the tools developed by her new company that some creative jobs maybe will go away, but maybe they should have been there in the first place. One may claim optimistically that new opportunities may emerge in the wake of displacement, but very little has been proven to substantiate that claim, and if history does repeat, the outlook is grim. By and large, local folk artists in search of work during the Industrial Revolution migrated to urban centers where jobs were abundant, but working conditions were poor. The ones that maintained their practice managed to do so by moving their goods up market and cultivating a more niche and upscale clientele. This meant that the public was relegated to the consumption of mass-produced goods, while folk art became a luxury. It is likely that this will become the position of digital folk art, the community-driven creations emerging from internet subcultures, reflecting the values and aesthetics of specific digital communities. In response to the growing volume of AI-generated content, the quaintness of authentic user-generated content, specifically content made by humans, will provoke a revival, what McLuhan would call a reversal. User-generated content will become a form of resistance, like the vinyl record in the age of the MP3, or the film camera in the age of the iPhone. To combat the impact of generative AI, creators will need to nurture closer relationships with their audience, moving away from mass platforms to smaller digital spaces more tailored to their communities.
This kind of resistance can be seen in the resurgence of platforms like Discord and Patreon, where creators cultivate smaller, more intimate communities. For instance, ContraPoints, a YouTuber known for her long video essays exploring complex social issues, uses Patreon to develop deeper relationships with her audience, offering exclusive content and updates to supporters, which builds a more direct and meaningful connection outside of mass algorithms. Creator and journalist Joel Sturpak does the same with a private Discord along with her semi-public Substack and a public YouTube video channel. It is in those spaces, away from the ruthlessly optimizing algorithms, that new publics will be formed. Though AI lowers the barrier to creation, it now also lowers the barrier to senseless optimization. When the folk art is placed to a crowd of computers, the work no longer serves as a narrative ingrained in a specific culture. Instead, the work becomes subservient to metrics. It exists to be optimized, to be legible by an ever-changing algorithm. In the chase to satisfy the algorithm, the logical progression dictates that content be created en masse to test out the most performing. By choosing algorithmically driven platforms, the creator exposes themselves to their physics. As writer Fran Lebowitz writes, culture is a two-way street, and a discerning audience makes the culture better. The juxtaposition of feed algorithms and generative AI decenters the wants of the human audience in favor of algorithmically driven metrics. Creators will need to find solutions, alternatives, if they want to survive. Otherwise, the content creator will be a folk artist doomed to play endlessly to an audience of accelerating computers.